Welcome back to Gibbo MMA, and we are going to review the Misfits Boxing card, as well as we're going to get through some of the UFC announcements that happened. Islam JDM at MSG, as well as the vacant strawweight title, Dan versus Jandiroba, my goodness, and Shevchenko Zhang. So yeah, lots to get through, a lot of names to get better at pronouncing. But yeah, let's start with this Misfits Boxing. It's ended a few hours ago. Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, and it went down in brutal fashion. Darren Till absolutely folds Luke Rockhold like a deck chair in the third round. This fight probably could have been stopped in the second round. We'll get into the refs on this card, but God, Darren Till has found his place in the Misfits boxing world, just fighting ex-UFC fighters or influencers, whatever, because he's doing really well. He doesn't need to go back to the UFC. This is his niche. Stick to it. And if he could fight the guys like Jake Paul, Andrew Tate, he knows they won't want to fight him. But like, this is what Darren Till needs to keep doing. And I'll break down the fight for you guys, and pretty much it was just an easy dub over a 40-year-old man who is an ex-UFC champ. But in the preview I said, by Rockhold doing boxing, he's going to lose like 80% of his weapons, because he has some of the best kicks in the game and also a great grappler. And by going to boxing, he wasn't able to use those tools. All those tools are locked up in the shed, and he's only able to use the remaining two weapons, and that's not his strong suit in the boxing. And Darren Till also has great striking, and he's been doing boxing for a lot longer, and has had a few more boxing fights and experience than Rockhold. So for it to play out like this, it was well promoted. But yeah, I hope Rockhold's all right. I saw a photo of both of them out at the bar drinking. And in the first round, Rockhold got dropped at the end of the first round, and he was scrambling. He got back up, but he was scrambling back to his corner. He didn't know where he was. He didn't even know where his corner was. He was concussed. And then in the second round, he gets Darren Till, kind of drops him again, and he falls down to his knee but gets straight back up, and he's dazed into the corner, and Darren Till just keeps laying it on him, and the ref's just standing there. And then he was like, oh, I gotta do something. And then he doesn't give him a standing 8 count as what he should have done. He should have already called it a knockdown beforehand, but just let it go. And then all he did was just separate them. So very unsafe reffing there. Very unsafe, because Rockhold he got dropped, got back up straight away, where it should have been stopped for a count, and it kept going. And then he was pinned in the corner, getting laid on, and then the ref was just like, all right, that's enough, let's separate. What he was supposed to do was give him a standing 8 count. So very unsafe reffing in that aspect. Rockhold survives the end of that round in the second round, and then comes out in the third, and then inevitably just gets absolutely rocked like a lawn chair. You see the images online, like he's leaning back, his legs flexing, and he's just fully knocked out. And then the ref has the audacity to then start counting for him to get out. And it's like, this guy is dead. And the trainer even jumped in, like, pretty much straight away. So yeah, that's very unsafe to see a guy reffing there, because that's what they're supposed to do, is keep the rules in check, but also protect the fighter. And Luke Rockhold was not protected in there. And definitely a review needs to be done from the commission for, yes, it's kind of these influencer, misfits, whatever kind of fights, but it doesn't mean you're going to get, I don't even know who this, we'll get into the Tony Ferguson stoppage, but I don't even know where these refs come from in their experience. But from my experience watching a lot of fights, a lot of cards, you don't see, in boxing, you don't sort of see that bad of handling, consistently bad handling of knockdowns and fights and not protecting the fighter. Like that was very poor, and you don't really see too many of that on the pro boxing cards, proper professional fights. Whereas this, it's the influencer type thing. But these guys are professional athletes like Darren Till and Luke Rockhold. Like they're pro guys, but as far as like the whole promotion and card, fair enough, but it's still fighting, and you got to have competent refs in there. And what we expect as competent is protecting the fighter. Like that is a must have. That is a non-negotiable, is the competent. Anything more is just, hey, great job. But as a ref, your competency is to protect the fighter and know the rules. And there was a lot, very much lack there. But it's not about that. But that just really frustrates me when you see fighters not being protected. And yeah, it was pretty bad. But yeah, Darren Till gets the win. Luke Rockhold, I don't want to see him doing any more striking fights. Yeah, he got a win in karate combat because he can use his legs, but he's 41 years old, 40 years old, taken enough hits to the head now, and like as you saw in the bare knuckle boxing, got steamrolled, and same with here, he got steamrolled on 3 occasions. So yeah, just want to see him do grappling matches. Just do fun grappling matches. Maybe karate combat because he can use his legs. I just saw against Joe Stealing, but yeah, Darren Till, keep being the Misfits king, I think. But let's get on to Tony Ferguson. It's been a long time. 6 years without a win, 8-5 losing streak. But today marks the day. Tony Ferguson is back in the win column. He is now an undefeated boxer, 1-0, and he beats Salt Papi. Well done to Salt Papi for getting in there with Tony. He was looking really good, Salt Papi, but Tony gets a standing TKO in the 3rd round. Again, controversial stoppage. I'll get into that, but Salt Papi was looking good. He was landing shots in there. Tony, no elbows were thrown. He didn't get disqualified, so well done to Tony. And yeah, Salt Papi was landing some good shots, and did think, oh, Tony could be getting knocked out here. But Tony did invest in the body because Salt Papi is a bit of a thick boy, pretty wide, and the body doesn't move that well like the head. So very easy target, and Tony invested in that. And then by the 3rd round, Tony was like, this guy isn't moving anywhere from me. He is so easy to hit, so I'm just going to throw 15 plus punches and the ref's going to step in and stop it. And that's exactly what happened. Salt Papi was taking unanswered shots, but he was defending himself. His hands were up. And when that happens in that point, because it was the first time in the fight that sort of situation was happening, fighter's sort of in trouble, you meant to get a standing 8 count. Like he's up there copping hits, but he's still defending himself. It's like, all right, standing 8 count, and he just stopped the fight. And if you're a Tony Ferguson fan, you're definitely happy. If you betted, I didn't do any betting on this, no way. On Salt Papi, if you had a bet on him, you would be furious. And if the roles, and this is why it's a bad stoppage, because yeah, the fan favorite won. We're not going to complain too much, but if the roles were reversed and that was Tony Ferguson getting that stoppage, him being stopped in that way, the whole MMA boxing Tony Ferguson fans would be furious that that was a stoppage. If Tony Ferguson was on the other side of that, if he was defending himself, copping unanswered punches, sometimes some guys just laying it on you, but you're just gonna play possum a little bit. A bit of Muhammad Ali, bit of Israel Adesanya, just waiting your turn. And for it to be stopped was, again, these refs, do they not know the rules? Like, bang, just give him a standing 8 count, separate him, happens again. Okay, stop it. Like, he's not rocked. Sol Papi wasn't rocked, and they're instantly shaking his head like, why'd you stop it? So, yeah, tough watch. I got to slow it down a bit because nothing more frustrating than fighters not being protected, and then you see that, and you're like, now he's been overprotected, and a guy who's trained really hard gets that early stoppage. Papi very much could have made his way back into that fight. So yeah, I guess you get these on these type of Misfits cards. But yeah, and then these were the only 3 fights I'm talking about. Dylan Dennis. I didn't even know this was an MMA fight because it was in the ring. I just assumed it was boxing. And that's how much thought I put into this card, because it's just like, oh, there's a couple of UFC fighters on there. But Dylan Dennis fought a guy who was making his MMA debut and it was in a ring, throwing it back to Pride days. Gets a first round 15-second mounted guillotine. Yeah, that just kind of just says it all. Well done to Dylan for getting in there, but I'm giving more credit to Warren Spencer, I believe. Spencer never fought in MMA, and he's fighting a black belt jiu-jitsu guy who's 2-0 in MMA in Bellator. He stepped in there with him. He made probably the biggest mistake he could have, and he was the one that engaged the clinch, the grappling. He shot in, and Dylan was like, thank you very much. Threw him to the ground and mounted guillotined him in 15 seconds. So yeah, I'm not too impressed by this at all. I'm more impressed by Spencer for getting in there, in the ring, such a foreign environment, as well as you're so used to MMA being in a cage now, and they were doing it in a ring, so in the boxing ring. And yeah, I want to see Dylan Dennis actually fight MMA, because that's where his skill set is, in the grappling. I want to see like what he's actually good at. So this is a step towards something different Misfits are doing, because they did announce this was like a soft launch of MMA. I think that was that first fight they put on. So yeah, it was all boxing, and then they just had that MMA fight, which was a bit kind of weird, but yeah, seeing more MMA would be great, and in a boxing ring, awesome. And the promoter, whoever, was saying like, we're gonna try and make it less hugging, more entertaining, which will be cool to see how they kind of make their rules around it. And yeah, so those 3 fights, all you had to do is just go on Instagram and just scroll through the feed, and you got it all right there. You didn't even need to watch it live. And that's what this promotion type of is, just viral moments, bang, quick 10-15 second hits of just dopamine, hectic action, like Luke Rockhold getting knocked out. Like Dylan Dennis's fight is in a short reel, is in an Instagram reel. They're trying to make Instagram reel viral moments, and that's what these fights were. Those nice little 15-20 second viral hits you can put into short form content, and that's really what the whole Misfit boxing events are, is like, how can we make these TikTok short Instagram reels from these fights? And they definitely got some great content there, and we're all reacting to it. And yeah, as far as like skill set levels and all that, there's a place for that in the pro world, in the pro promotions. But yeah, Misfits, just get people with influence in a platform and get him in there. And yeah, so you can't really bag it too much. If anything, well done. I'm just seeing what else there is to mention. Yeah, Tony Ferguson, just, man, 8-fight losing streak over 6 years and a lot of cancelled fights in that. He was so stoked when he got that win, and everyone in the MMA fans around the world were just cheering for him just to get that win, just to get it. Like, yes, it was over Salt Pappy, who's not like, he is a boxer, but he's not like Tony Ferguson's a UFC interim world champion. And but it's still a win, eh? A win's a win. So well done, Tony. Well done, Till. Rockhold, probably see him just in the grappling sort of scene now. You could just clearly see it was just all about money, getting in there for the money, and can't hate a man for that. He made his paycheck. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the Misfits Boxing card, on those fights and those refs. Wow. All right. Second half of this. Did a little reaction on the Insta, but UFC 322 Madison Square Garden has been announced, and headlining that, we knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of when, but it is now official. Jack Della Maddalena faces Islam Makhachev. Islam early this year vacated his belt from the lightweight division and is moving up to the 170-pound division, 15 pounds up to the welterweight division to take on Jack Della Maddalena. And this is going to be an exceptional fight, great matchup. So many questions to be answered. The biggest one is, will the size difference matter? Will age matter? Jack 28, Islam, I think Islam's 32. Should have had that up. Because Jack's 28, hitting just start of his athletic prime. Islam is in his athletic prime at 33, but it's only sort of a couple years more, but it's a great matchup. And Dagestan versus Perth, Australia. Who will win? And with the style, like, I won't break it down too much because when it comes around, I'll be doing a full video just on this fight. But Islam is not heavy, but is the favorite in this fight already. And yeah, and listening to his coach, JDM's coach, Ben Vickers, he was saying about this fight, like, Islam, like, Bilal has a better chin than Islam. And what that's saying is, if the shots Bilal took from JDM, if Bilal can take that, Islam's not going to be able to. So if JDM gets those shots on Islam, who I believe and is very hittable. Islam is very hittable. You go back and watch his fights with his fight with Dustin Poirier and with Alex. He's a very hittable guy. Has his hands up, but is very hittable. But he was getting hit by a featherweight in Volk, who did move up. And then he was getting hit by a lightweight in Dustin, who has great boxing. Like, he took great shots. But Dustin's a real big volume guy. Or not real big, but like more of a volume in the mid-range of power. So, and JDM's sort of the same. Bit of a volume guy, not throwing massive, insane power, but he can knock people out for sure. And I'm just wondering, that 15-pound difference, how those shots are going to add up and affect Islam. And that's why this fight's so great, because obviously I'm going to be biased towards the Australian and want him to win, but also like doing it from a breaking down analytical sort of side and being unbiased. Like, Islam, 100%, like that grappling, getting a hold of you, he hasn't lost in over a decade. Let's see when he last lost. He only has one loss on his record early on. It was 2015. So, and as you know, like, Islam, Khabib, very hard guys to beat. So that's why this fight's so great. And like, Islam, he's going to try and get in there, get that crazy DAS or something. And JDM, we know his takedown defense is getting better. He's got Craig Jones back in his camp, and so he's going to have even more time to get better at getting back to his feet and defending takedowns. And we're going to get to see that, what this matchup is going to be. And that's what's so exciting for this fight. So we knew it was going to happen when he vacated the belt, and now Ilya is the champ at lightweight. So it's finally booked at MSG Perfect. But yeah, and the last time we were at MSG last year, it's crazy. Like, a lot happens in the UFC. Like, it's just go, go, go. The last time we were there in November last year was John Jones versus Stipe. And look where those fighters are now. Retired. Literally not even a year ago, those guys fought, and they're now both retired. So, and that brings me to this. While Dana was announcing this live on Insta, I had to wait a long time because they're like, oh, we're going live. And 4 hours later, finally get it. But he was on the plane and he said the White House is done. It's official. It's happening. And to see, and what's so annoying about it's like awesome, but what's annoying about all this lead up in the White House talk is constantly like, oh, who are you going to put on the card? Who's fighting on the card? You got anyone in mind? Conor McGregor? And a lot can happen between now and July next year, whenever it will be. Like, so much happens. You don't know where these fighters will be at, what the landscape is. Literally not even a year ago, John Jones and Stipe fought, and now they've retired. So, like, enough with the who's fighting on the goddamn White House card. Just wait, because so much shit can happen between then. And the reporters and media guys that consistently ask the same stupid question, it just so annoying. Like, ask stupid question, get stupid answers. But White House is going down. And for the co-main of UFC 322, I am loving this. It is a women's super fight. If you look back in history at some of the greatest fighters of all time, Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, Amanda Rousey, we kind of got those. But this fight is going to be a great matchup. Valentina Shevchenko defends her flyweight belt against Zhang Wei Li, who will vacate her strawweight belt and from the 115-pound division and move up to the 125-pound. And these girls are like, Shevchenko is one of the greatest women's fighters of all time, and Zhang is very much on her way as well. And this is going to be a cracking fight. So Zhang has to vacate, and with her vacating the title, we get Verna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern in Abu Dhabi, October UFC 321 for the vacant women's strawweight title. So, and what I saw from this, and it's consistently happening, is yeah, it looks like we will never have double champs again. A lot of people, like the Conor McGregor simultaneous double champs era, is gone because these people have had to vacate their belts start of the year. Topuria had to vacate featherweight, move up to lightweight. He won the belt. So technically, he could have been a simultaneous double champ. But I think the UFC just didn't like the way, obviously, they wanted Conor to fight and all that, but just the way it leaves divisions, because Conor didn't defend his belt at all, didn't defend his belt once. He just got the belt and then just moved on, got the belt, moved on. And that leaves a division just in no man's land. And then you're making these vacant title fights. Like, when it's a title fight, you want a defending champ when that fight happens. You don't want vacant belts on the line. Because yeah, like featherweight, Topuria moved up, got the lightweight belt because Islam wanted to move up. So yeah, we pretty much had like 3 like steps to happen. So we had Islam vacate because he wanted to fight at welterweight. So that's why we got Topuria Oliveira for the vacant belt. And then because Topuria wanted to move up, he vacated his featherweight belt. So that's why we got Volk Lopez for the vacant featherweight. So we've had 2 vacant title fights this year, being Volk Lopez for featherweight because Topuria moved up. And we have, and then we had Topuria Oliveira for lightweight because Islam wanted to move up. And then, so we had lightweight vacant, Topuria Oliveira. And then now we're having a women's strawweight vacant title because Zhang Wei Li is now moving up. And if it was 10 years ago, they're becoming double champs or they're keeping their belts. The last time we had someone move up, last 2 guys I can think of right now was Volkan Islam, because he's missed probably the most active champ. Some of the most active champs of all time is Volkan Adesanya, and I think that's why UFC let them do it because Volk went up, fought Islam, kept his featherweight belt. Oh, sorry, he kept his belt, but they made an interim belt, so they had Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez fight on the same card, co-main in Perth, for the interim belt. But Volk was still undisputed champ, went up, fought lightweight, and then immediately fought Yair, whooped his ass. But you've got to be active if you want to move up and down between divisions. So I don't think, like Islam, like he's not going to go up to welterweight, win, come back down to lightweight, defend, and just bouncing around. So that's why they got to vacate. And then Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, when he was middleweight champ, doing laps around the middleweight division, got to move up, fight Jan. Didn't win, but he didn't have to vacate or anything. So, yeah, a bit of a change in, will we ever see a double champ again, a simultaneous double champ again in the UFC, just with the fighters now having to vacate? Is Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, DC, are those going to be the only people to stay as simultaneous double champs? Because it looks like the UFC don't want to go down that route of simultaneous champs not defending their belts, because it's hard enough doing it on one division, but to then do it for 2 divisions, it just leaves the division in a standstill. And the biggest thing I value as a fighter, and when it comes down to the greatest fighters of all time, is how many times did you defend your belt? That's why John Jones, GSP, and Demetrius Johnson held in such high regard. Anderson Silva, Volkanovski, Israel Adesanya, they defended their belts in their division, and that's what gets you that status. And that's why Conor McGregor can't be a GOAT, isn't considered a GOAT, because he didn't defend his belt. He won them, but he never defended and dominated his divisions. Obviously, on the way up he did, but he never maintained. Because it's obviously the GOAT in the fight game, in prize fighting, very much the GOAT, but defending as an MMA fighter, no. So, and another fight on the Madison Square Garden card, which hit me out of left field, was Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates, and I absolutely love this fight. I think Prates was calling for a few guys, and Edwards was one of them. And if I'm Edwards, I'd be super happy because I don't have to verse a goddamn grappler. As you saw with his last fight, Edwards just got dominated by Sean Brady. And having this striking fight and knowing he's not going to have to do a whole lot of wrestling, I think this is a good way to him to get back in the octagon. It's going to be a great fight. Who will win? The way Prates is going, man. But people forget Leon Edwards striking because of the fights he has been with Bilal, Usman, now Sean. People forget how good his striking is because he's had to be worried about fucking people sniffing his crotch and defending takedowns. So this fight, I think we're going to see vintage Leon Edwards. And again, the fans win in this. And Madison Square Garden is looking lit. I cannot wait. Let me know your thoughts on those fights. And one more fight that was announced. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista, bantamweight fight. That's going to be, I think we're going to see some great grappling exchanges in it. Umar, if he gets this, he might get a title shot again, maybe. Because, yeah, like Sandhagen and Maraba fighting. So he could versus the winner. Like if Sandhagen wins, him versus Sandhagen would be good. Obviously, that's Umar's probably best way to get a title is if Sandhagen wins because he's beaten Sandhagen. But yeah, and what's an MSG card like when this got announced and just shows you how good these fights are with Islam, JDM, Prates Edwards, and then this woman's fight, Shevchenko Zhang Wei Li, how good that fight is. The post has over 1 million likes. And if you go and look, they might get 50, 80, 100K likes. But this post is why we watch UFC. This is why we watch the Apex cards, why we follow along, because it's all worth it when it comes around to these announcements and these fights being made. So that's why I'm a UFC fan. And yes, we talk down on it, but it's just because we get frustrated, but it's all positive in the end because we get this. And this is why I'm a fan. This is why I follow and spend my time talking about it, because these matchups and fights are just history in the making, legacy building. When you look back, you're going to be like, damn, what a fight card. Where was I when this happened? And this card at MSG is definitely going to be that. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. We've got UFC Paris next weekend, 5 a.m. main card in Australia, so I'll be up for that. I'll be doing the preview maybe a little bit earlier this week because I'm road tripping down south. Maybe I'll do the podcast in my car. We'll find out. But let me know your thoughts on the Misfits Boxing event and these UFC announcements. Who you got winning, JDM versus Islam? But yeah, cheers, guys. Be sure to subscribe. Appreciate the support, whether it be 1 million or one person watching this. I see you. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next episode. Catch you later.